Integrating Science and Art in Early Childhood Curriculum. Based on the article, Integrate Science and Arts Process Skills in Early Childhood Curriculum by Kathy Morrison. There are many reasons why this article was written. One main purpose is that integrating science and art in the early childhood grade levels just makes sense. Art is an area that younger students are very interested in, so by integrating it into science lessons that might be difficult for students to comprehend can support the students' overall understanding. Another reason for this article is to support the students' understanding of the real world. Young children just have a natural curiosity for the world and how it works. They're constantly wondering and exploring and questioning their natural surroundings. Students are constantly experiencing different science concepts like snow, rain, or why the leaves change in the fall. These things are fascinating for students, and they want to learn more about them. Later on in this article, we will talk about the fundamental skills that are essential for students to learn in science. These skills will help students learn different ways to understand the things that fascinate them about the world that they live in. This article also touches on how students are natural artists. Younger students love to be creative. They love to draw and dance and sing and participate in dramatic play and large activities. By incorporating these unique ways into science curriculum, it can help their overall understanding and comprehension. There are 5 fundamental skills for students to learn in science. They're observe, communicate, compare, measure, and organize. Each of these skills can be easily integrated into an area of the arts. For example, music, movement, dance, visual, or even performing arts. The first process skill we'll be talking about is observe. This fundamental process skill can be defined by using the student's senses to gather information about different objects or even events. Early childhood classrooms contain many opportunities for students to observe different things very closely. Students are given this opportunity through an area of their classroom called a discovery center. These discovery centers can include things like leaves, rocks, shells, worms, anything that allows students to observe and express and explore their different senses. Observation skills can be used and explored in many different ways in an early childhood classroom. One great way is for students to observe an ant farm. Students can observe the ant farm and observe how the ants make their different tunnels. Students can then create their own creative ways to represent what they're seeing. Students can draw what they're seeing. They can use string and glue onto a piece of paper, or they can even use chalk and draw on a dark piece of paper. By having students experiment with art materials, such as glue, yarn, markers, pens, chalk, it allows them to experience cause and effect, just like in an ant farm. Our next fundamental skill is compare. This skill of comparing involves examining the characteristics of objects or events in the classroom and discovering their similarities and differences. Young students are noticing these similarities and differences in their classrooms and daily life all the time. Students are often comparing heights between students, who's taller, who's shorter, who can run faster, and they're even comparing the similarities between each other's names. Just this simple act that children do every day can support their understanding of different comparison words. One way for teachers to support this skill is through a project where the students compare the differences between different types of rocks. Students can compare their size, color, and even texture. Students can put their rocks into groups and compare them to their peers. Students can then draw and represent what they've learned in the comparison between their own rocks and the rocks of their peers. Students can create models of their rocks through crumpling pieces of paper. They can draw on a big poster board. They can even design a rock obstacle course in a sandbox or even in their discovery center. These creative ways can support students in their understanding and help them retain the information that they've learned. Our next skill is measuring. Measuring is both a math and science skill. Measuring in early childhood classrooms can be done standard or non-standard. For example, some young children might measure the height of their peers by using multi-length cubes. They may even discover how long their classroom table is by measuring it with markers. By using these different measuring activities for younger students, it gives them the opportunity to see how things are measured in a variety of different ways. The standard units of measurement, such as inches, feet, or cups, may seem hard for students to understand. So by finding creative ways to measure things, it helps them understand and makes it more relevant to them. One great project for this is called Myself as a Tool. This allows students to come up with their own creative ways to measure different objects in their classroom to support their understanding. For example, students can decorate yardsticks or rulers, take strips of paper and decorate them and measure the height of different objects. Students can even use themselves as a form of measurement. How many arms length is my friend? How many arms length is this table? By giving the students this opportunity to create their own ways of measurement, it can support them in the beginning of learning of measurement and support them later on when they learn the abstract and difficult units of measurement, such as inches, feet, cups, and ounces. Our next skill is organize. Organizing is a fundamental skill that includes different things like grouping, classifying, and sequencing. Everyday life for these early childhood students provides many opportunities for them to organize, not only at school, but also at home. For example, putting blocks back on the shelves, but grouping them by shape or color. Sorting dress-up clothes by different categories such as color. Keeping markers in different bins by their color, or even keeping different writing utensils in bins like markers, pens, crayons. Acting out a story is a great way for students to understand sequence, and it helps them focus on this scientific skill of organizing. Students can create their own stories or base them off of fairy tale stories and create their own dialogue and even costumes. Students will then break up the sequence of events and present them to the class before acting out their skit. This supports the students by helping them understand the importance of sequencing and organization for not only themselves but their peers to understand what they're presenting. The next process skill we have is communicate. This process skill can be expressed by sharing oral or written ideas or descriptions of different meanings of words. Young students are communicating with each other every day through dramatic play, storytelling, whole group activities, small group activities, and even individual projects. Each science topic that students will learn gives them the opportunity to communicate. It gives them the opportunity to communicate by allowing them to ask questions, express their understanding, express their hypothesis, or even ideas that might occur during the lesson. One great project for this is called Discover Insects. Students will go out into their environment and look for different types of insects and determining their characteristics and comparing them. Not only are they comparing them between the different insects they have found, but also with their peers. Once the students have finished, they will draw, create out of Play-Doh the different characteristics that they have found. Once they have determined these characteristics and designed them, they will compare with their peers, having a whole class discussion on these different characteristics, what they mean, what they look like, and how they are different. This supports this skill of communication because the students are getting the opportunity to talk it out, to hear what their peers have to say and the different characteristics that they might not have found. This is a great way to demonstrate this skill. Sometimes students need to hear someone else's perspective or just hear someone else explain the same idea for them to fully understand it. I have learned so many different things after reading this article. I learned that taking a common interest between young students, such as art, and implementing it in science, an area of study that might be difficult for many students, can really support their understanding. This gives them the opportunity to be creative and to find different ways to understand and understand these concepts in a way that makes sense to them and help them remember in the long run. As a future educator, these are some strategies that I can use in my future teaching career. Like I said, science can be an abstract area of study for students and can be hard for them to understand. So by using these creative ways for students and allowing them to engage and have fun, it can meet their academic needs. This is also a great way to let students have some fun in learning. It lets them get up and move around and participate in hands-on activities, things that they might not be able to do in other areas of study. I chose this article because it had really great ideas for implementing science in the classroom that help students understand. However, I believe that science is often an area of study that is overlooked. I know in my undergraduate career, I didn't have the opportunity to learn different ways of teaching science to younger students. Therefore, this article has shown me some great ways to teach science to younger students. And this is something that I will take with me into my future teaching career.